Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, watching the stars through the main viewing screen. 3 months had passed since they left Earth on humanity's first deep space mission. The ship carried 200 crew members into the unknown regions of space beyond their solar system. "Captain, we're picking up something on long-range sensors," said Communications Officer Kate Johnson. She turned from her station with excitement in her voice. "It looks like artificial signals, sir." Jake felt his heart race. This was what they had been hoping for during the long journey. First contact with an alien civilization. He walked over to Kate's station and looked at the data streaming across her screen. "How far away?" he asked. "About 2 light hours, sir. The signals are definitely not natural. Someone is out there." Dr. Lisa Park, the ship's chief science officer, hurried onto the bridge. She had been monitoring the sensor readings from her lab. "Captain, this is incredible. The signals show a highly advanced civilization. Their technology appears to be far beyond ours in some areas." Jake nodded. This was the moment that would change everything for humanity. "Kate, open a channel. Let's try to make contact." Kate worked at her controls for several minutes. "Channel. Open, sir. Broadcasting on multiple frequencies." Jake took a deep breath. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel USS Liberty. We come in peace, seeking contact and friendship with other intelligent life." They waited. The bridge was silent except for the quiet hum of the ship's systems. After what felt like hours but was only 20 minutes, Kate's station came alive with incoming signals. "Captain, we're getting a response. It's being translated automatically by our computers." A harsh voice filled the bridge. The translation made the words sound cold and threatening. "Unknown vessel, you have entered the territory of the Kethvar Empire. You will surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your destruction." Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. This was not how they had imagined first contact would go. "Kate, open the channel again." "Channel open, sir. This is Captain Morrison. We are explorers from the planet Earth. We had no knowledge of your territory. We wish to discuss peaceful relations between our peoples." The response came quickly, this time. "Your ignorance is not an excuse. The Kethvar Empire claims all space in this region. You will surrender your vessel and your crew will be processed for colonization. This is your final warning." Commander Ryan Bell, the ship's tactical officer, stepped forward. "Captain, I'm reading 30 warships moving toward our position. They'll be here in 6 hours. Jake felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. 200 human lives depended on his decisions. The crew looked to him for guidance, but he had never faced anything like this before. "Dr. Park, what can you tell me about their technology?" Lisa studied her readings. "Their ships are large, sir, much larger than ours, but there's something strange about their energy signatures. They seem to be using very old technology, like they haven't updated their systems in a long time." "What do you mean?" "Well, sir, their power sources appear to be nuclear fusion, but it's a very basic type. Their weapon systems look powerful but crude. It's like they built these ships hundreds of years ago and never improved them." Jake found this information interesting. "So they're advanced but not innovative?" "That's what it looks like, sir." Engineer Pete Collins joined them on the bridge. He had been working in the engine room when the alert came through. "Captain, I've been monitoring their communications. Our computers are having no trouble breaking their codes. Their security is terrible." "What are they saying?" Pete looked uncomfortable. "They're discussing the best way to take us alive, sir. They want to study us before they decide what to do with humanity. They think we're primitives who got lucky and found space travel." Jake walked back to the command chair. The Kethvar were making a big mistake if they thought humans were primitive. Earth had been at war with itself for thousands of years. Humanity had learned to fight and survive in ways that peaceful species never needed to learn. "Ryan, what's the status of our defensive systems?" "All systems operational, sir. But Captain, 30 ships against 1. The odds are not good." Jake smiled grimly. "Ryan, humans have never been ones to worry about odds. Kate, send another message." "Ready?" "Sir, Kethvar ships, this is Captain Morrison. We cannot surrender our vessel or our crew. However, we are willing to negotiate. We have much to offer in terms of trade and cooperation. The alien response was immediate and angry. You dare to negotiate with the Kethvar Empire? Your arrogance will be your doom. Prepare to face the consequences of defying us. War Commander Thexel stood on the bridge of the Kethvar flagship. He had conquered 17 worlds for the Empire. These humans would be number 18. The idea that such a small primitive vessel would refuse to surrender was almost amusing. Sub-Commander Kreeth, what is the status of our fleet? All ships are moving into position, War Commander. We will surround them and force their surrender within the hour. Thexel nodded. Good. Begin scanning their ship. I want to know everything about their technology before we board them. Back on the USS Liberty, Jake gathered his senior officers in the briefing room. The situation was desperate, but he had an idea. Listen carefully, everyone. We're going to do something the Kethvar won't expect. We're going to fight back. Dr. Park looked worried. Captain, with respect, they have 30 ships. Yes, but they've been at peace for a long time. They're used to easy victories against species that surrender without a fight. They don't know what humans are capable of when we're cornered. Pete, Collins nodded. The captain's right. I've been studying their ship designs. They're built for intimidation, not real combat. Their systems are old and slow. Ryan Bell was checking his tactical displays. Sir, what are your orders? Jake stood. We're going to show them what happens when you threaten Earth. Pete, I want all our experimental systems online. Lisa, prepare the medical bay for combat operations. Ryan, target their lead ships, but don't fire until I give the order. As the crew dispersed to their stations, Jake remained in the briefing room for a moment. He thought about Earth, about the families waiting for their return, about the future of humanity in the galaxy. The Kethvar had made a terrible mistake. They were about to learn why humans had survived and thrived on one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. The battle for humanity's place in the stars was about to begin. Chief Technician Vextar stared at his scanning console in disbelief. The readings coming from the human ship made no sense. He ran the scan again, thinking there must be an error in the system. The results were the same. Sub-Commander Kreeth, Vextar called across the bridge of the Kethvar flagship. You need to see this immediately. Kreeth walked over to the scanning station. As second-in-command, he had seen many strange things during his years of service, but the worry in Vextar's voice was unusual. What is it, technician? Sir, the scan results from the human vessel. They don't make sense. According to our instruments, their ship should not be able to exist. Kreeth looked at the data on the screen. His eyes widened as he read the information. Are you certain these readings are correct? I've run the scan 5 times, sir. The results are always the same. Their hull is made of materials that our database says are impossible to create. The density readings are off the charts. War Commander Thexel noticed the commotion and approached the scanning station. Report, he ordered. Vextar's voice shook slightly as he spoke. War Commander, the human ship appears to be constructed from compressed matter. The hull density suggests they somehow turned heavy elements into building materials. Our weapons may not be able to penetrate it. Thexel frowned. That's impossible. No known civilization has mastered matter compression on that scale. There's more, sir, Vextar continued. Their power source appears to be controlled stellar fusion. Not the simple fusion we use, but actual star-level fusion contained within their ship. The bridge fell silent. Controlled stellar fusion was theoretical technology that even the Kethvar Empire considered impossible. The energy requirements alone would destroy any known material. Kreeth studied the readings more carefully. Technician, what about their weapon systems? That's the strangest part, sir. I can't identify them. They're unlike anything in our database. The energy signatures suggest weapons that could tear apart space itself. On the USS Liberty, Engineer Pete Collins was working frantically in the engine room. The ship's experimental systems had never been tested in combat conditions. He needed to bring them online without destroying the ship. Amy, how are the power levels? He called to pilot Amy Carter, who was monitoring the systems from her station. Everything's holding steady, Pete, but I'm worried about the fusion containment. We're pushing way beyond safe limits. Dr. Lisa Park entered the engine room carrying her medical scanner. "Pete, I need to check something. Can you hold still for a moment?" She ran the scanner over him and frowned at the results. "Just as I thought. The radiation levels in here are dangerous. How are you functioning normally?" Pete smiled. "Doc, I grew up near the old nuclear plants on Earth. My grandfather worked in them for 40 years. Humans adapt to radiation better than most species would." Lisa made notes on her scanner. "That's fascinating. Earth's high radiation environment must have forced us to evolve better resistance. No wonder the aliens are confused by our technology." Kank. On the HFY flagship, more disturbing reports were coming in from other ships in the fleet. Each scan revealed new impossibilities about the human vessel. "War Commander," called the communications officer. "The other ships are reporting similar readings. Ship Captain Vorth says his scanners detected temporal distortions around the human vessel." "Temporal distortions?" Vexel repeated. "Yes, sir. As if they're somehow manipulating time itself." Vextar looked up from his console with fear in his eyes. "Sir, I'm also detecting gravitational anomalies. It's like they have a miniature black hole contained within their ship." Vexel felt a chill run through his body. He had fought many battles and conquered many worlds, but he had never encountered anything like this. How is any of this possible? Kreeth was studying the tactical display. "War Commander, perhaps we should reconsider our approach. If these readings are accurate, we may be facing a civilization far more advanced than our own." "Impossible," Vexel snapped. "They have one small ship against our entire fleet. No matter how advanced they are, they cannot defeat 30 warships." But even as he said it, Vexel felt doubt creeping into his mind. The HFY Empire had dominated this region of space for over 1,000 years by being the most technologically advanced species they encountered. Now they faced beings who seemed to break the fundamental laws of physics. On the Liberty's bridge, Captain Jake Morrison was receiving reports from all departments. The picture they painted was encouraging. "Captain," said Commander Ryan Bell, "our tactical systems are showing some interesting data about the alien fleet. Their ships are impressive in size, but their technology appears to be very old." "How old?" Jake asked. "Based on their energy signatures and scanning patterns, I'd say their newest ships are at least 300 years old. They haven't innovated in a very long time." Dr. Park nodded in agreement. "That matches what I'm seeing, Captain. Their scanning technology is powerful but simple. They're running the same scans over and over, as if they can't believe what they're reading." Kate Johnson looked up from her communications station. "Sir, I'm intercepting their internal communications. They're starting to panic. Their technicians can't explain our ship's readings." Jake smiled. "Good. Confusion is our friend right now. Lisa, explain to me again why their scans are showing impossible readings." "Well, sir, our hull is made from materials developed through centuries of surviving on Earth. Our planet's high gravity, radiation, and extreme weather forced us to create stronger materials than most species would ever need. To them, it looks like magic," Pete Collins added from his station. "Plus, sir, our power systems are designed to work in Earth's magnetic field and radiation environment. We built them to be tough and adaptable. Their scans probably show energy patterns they've never seen before." "And our weapons?" Jake asked Ryan. "Sir, our weapons are designed for ship-to-ship combat in space filled with debris and radiation. Most species probably fight in clean, empty space. Our targeting systems and weapon designs would seem impossible to them." Jake walked to the viewing screen and looked out at the approaching alien fleet. The ships were enormous, but they moved in predictable patterns. Everything about them suggested a civilization that had become comfortable and lazy after centuries of easy victories. "They're about to learn something important," Jake said quietly. "They're going to learn what happens when a species from a dangerous world decides to fight back." On the HFY flagship, the panic was spreading. Officers who had never faced a real challenge were beginning to question everything they knew about warfare and technology. "War Commander," Vextar reported, his voice barely steady. "I'm detecting new energy signatures from the human ship. It appears they're bringing additional systems online." "What kind of systems?" Vexel demanded. "Unknown, sir. The energy patterns are unlike anything in our database. Kreeth approached the war commander. Sir, perhaps we should report this to the Empire before proceeding. This situation is beyond our experience. Thexel's pride would not allow retreat. No. We will proceed as planned. 30 ships against 1. The mathematics are simple. But as he gave the order to continue the attack, Thexel could not shake the feeling that they were making a terrible mistake. The humans had somehow created technology that seemed to violate the laws of physics, and now they were preparing to use it. The news of the impossible scan results spread through the Kethvar fleet like wildfire. On ship after ship, veteran warriors who had conquered dozens of worlds began to whisper among themselves. The confidence that had carried them through 1,000 years of easy victories was starting to crack. Ship Captain Vorth commanded one of the older vessels in the fleet. He had served the Empire for 60 years and had never seen his crew look so worried. His chief technician had just finished, confirming the scanning results from the flagship. "Captain," his technician said quietly, "the readings are confirmed. That human ship defies everything we know about physics and engineering." Vorth looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These were experienced soldiers, but they had never faced anything like this. "Have you ever seen technology like this before?" "Never, sir. In all my years of service, I've never encountered anything that our scanners couldn't explain. These humans have somehow created impossible things." On another ship, Ship Captain Nexra was having similar conversations with her officers. She had led the assault on 12 different worlds, but something about this situation felt different. "Sub-Commander," she called to her second-in-command. "What do our tactical computers say about the human vessel's capabilities?" The sub-commander checked his displays. "Captain, the computers cannot generate reliable predictions. The human ship's specifications are outside all known parameters. Our battle simulations keep failing." Nexra felt a chill of fear. The Kethvar military relied heavily on their computers to plan battles. If the computers couldn't predict what the humans might do, how could they prepare for combat? Back on the flagship, War Commander Thexel was trying to maintain control as more disturbing. Reports came in from his fleet. "War Commander," called his communications officer. "Ship Captain Dreckel is requesting permission to fall back and regroup. His crew is reporting that their weapons targeting systems cannot lock onto the human vessel." "What do you mean, cannot? Lock on?" Thexel demanded. "Sir, the human ship appears to be surrounded by some kind of distortion field. Our targeting computers cannot get a clear reading on their position." Sub-Commander Kreeth approached with another troubling report. "War Commander, 3 more ships are reporting similar problems. It's as if the humans are somehow hiding their true location in space." Thexel's anger was growing. "This is impossible. No technology can fool our targeting systems." But even as he said it, he knew something was very wrong. The Kethvar Empire had built their reputation on superior technology and overwhelming force. Now they faced an enemy that seemed to operate outside the rules of known science. On the USS Liberty, Captain Jake Morrison was putting his plan into action. The key was not to fight the aliens using their rules, but to use tactics they would never expect. "Amy," he called to pilot Amy Carter, "begin evasive pattern Delta 7. Amy's hands moved across her controls with practiced skill. "Delta 7, sir? That's the asteroid field pattern." "Exactly. They're expecting us to behave like a normal spaceship. Instead, we're going to move like we're flying through an asteroid field at high speed." Dr. Lisa Park looked confused. "Captain, there are no asteroids here. Why use that flight pattern?" Jake smiled. "Because, Lisa, no sane pilot would fly like that in open space. It's chaotic, unpredictable, and dangerous. But Amy has been practicing it since she was 16 years old in the asteroid belt around Mars." Amy began the complex maneuvers. The Liberty twisted and turned through space in patterns that seemed random and suicidal. The ship rolled, dove, and accelerated in directions that made no tactical sense. On the Kethvar ships, the targeting computers went crazy trying to follow the human vessel's movements. "What are they doing?" Ship Captain Vorth shouted at his tactical officer. "I don't know, sir. They're flying like madmen. No pilot would attempt those maneuvers unless they were completely insane." "Can we target them?" "No, sir. Every time we get a lock, they change direction in ways that should be impossible. It's like they're not following any known flight doctrine. The same scene was playing out across the entire HFY fleet. Ships that had never missed a target were finding themselves unable to predict where the human vessel would be from one moment to the next. War Commander Thexel watched in growing frustration as his fleet failed to get a single clear shot at the enemy. How is one ship avoiding 30 of our finest vessels? Vextar was studying the human ship's movements on his scanner. Sir, I think I understand what they're doing. They're not following any standard flight patterns. They're moving like they're dodging obstacles that don't exist. That makes no sense. Unless, sir, they learned to fly in dangerous environments. If they developed their piloting skills in asteroid fields or gravitational anomalies, they would naturally fly in ways that seem impossible to us. Kreeth was beginning to understand the bigger picture. War Commander, what if these humans come from a more dangerous world than we assumed? What if their entire civilization developed under conditions that forced them to create technologies and tactics we never needed? Thexel didn't want to hear this. His pride demanded victory, but doubt was growing in his mind. Continue the attack. Surround them and force them to fight. But as the fleet moved to encircle the human ship, the Liberty did something completely unexpected. Instead of trying to escape, it accelerated directly toward the largest group of HFY vessels. Sir, Amy called out, they're moving to block our escape route. Jake nodded. Perfect. Ryan, prepare to execute Plan Charlie. Ryan Bell's fingers danced over his tactical controls. Plan Charlie ready, sir. What's Plan Charlie? Dr. Park asked. Something no military computer would ever recommend, Jake replied. We're going to charge directly at their strongest point and do the most illogical thing possible. On the HFY flagship, alarms began sounding as the human ship raced toward them at impossible speed. Evasive action, Thexel ordered. But the human ship wasn't trying to ram them. Instead, it performed a maneuver that defied explanation. At the last second, it spun around its own axis, fired a burst of energy that wasn't aimed at any ship, and then accelerated away in a direction that led deeper into the HFY formation. What was that? Kreeth demanded. Vextar was frantically checking his readings. Sir, they fired some kind of pulse weapon, but it wasn't aimed at us. It was aimed at empty space. Why would they waste ammunition shooting at nothing? The answer came a few moments later. The energy pulse had created a temporary disruption in local space that interfered with the HFY sensors. For crucial seconds, half the fleet lost track of not only the human ship but each other. In that confusion, 3 HFY ships nearly collided as their navigation systems failed to account for the spatial distortion. The tight formation that had been their strength became a liability as ships scattered to avoid accidents. Jake Morrison watched the chaos with satisfaction. Humans have been fighting in 3 dimensions for centuries, he told his crew. We learned to use every dirty trick, every environmental hazard, every mistake the enemy might make. These aliens fight like they're still on a flat battlefield. The HFY fleet was learning a harsh lesson. For 1,000 years, they had fought enemies who followed predictable patterns and used familiar technologies. Now they faced a species that had learned warfare in the hardest school possible, survival on a world that tried to kill them every day. As the Liberty continued its impossible dance through space, avoiding weapons fire and creating chaos wherever it went, the HFY warriors began to realize they were facing something they had never encountered before, an enemy that refused to follow the rules. With the HFY fleet scattered and confused, Captain Jake Morrison knew it was time to show them what humans were truly capable of. The aliens had superior numbers and technology, but they had never faced an enemy that turned desperation into opportunity. Lisa, Jake called to Dr. Park, activate the medical protocol we discussed. Dr. Park's fingers moved quickly across her medical console. Captain, are you sure about this? We've never tested it in actual combat. We've never had a better opportunity. Do it. In the medical bay, Dr. Ben Hayes was preparing something that would have horrified the HFY if they understood what was happening. The medical nanobots designed to heal human injuries were being reprogrammed for a very different purpose. Amy, I need you to get us close to their command ship, Jake ordered. Pilot Amy Carter looked at him with surprise. Sir, That's suicide. Their weapons will tear us apart at close range. Trust me, Amy. Just get us within 50 meters of their hull. Amy shook her head but followed orders. The Liberty performed another series of impossible maneuvers, dancing through the alien weapons fire like it was flying through a gentle rain instead of deadly energy beams. On the HFY flagship, War Commander Thexel watched in disbelief as the human ship approached his vessel with no apparent concern for the massive firepower being directed at it. "How are they avoiding our weapons?" he shouted. Chief Technician Vextar was studying his instruments, frantically. "Sir, I think they're using our own weapons against us. Every time we fire, they seem to know exactly where the beam will be and they're not there anymore." "That's impossible. Our weapons fire at the speed of light." "Yes, sir, but they're not dodging the beams. They're predicting where we're going to fire and moving before we pull the trigger." Subcommander Kreeth realized what this meant. They're reading our targeting systems in real time. Somehow they're inside our computers. As the Liberty drew close to the flagship, Dr. Hayes released his modified nanobots. The microscopic machines were designed to seek out and repair damaged tissue, but Lisa Park had reprogrammed them to seek out and infiltrate electronic systems instead. The nanobots spread out in an invisible cloud around the flagship. Within minutes, they had found their way into the ship's computer network through the smallest gaps in the hull plating. "War Commander," Vextar called out in panic. "Our systems are being invaded. Something is taking control of our computers." "What kind of weapon is this?" Thexel demanded. "I don't know, sir. It's like our computers are being infected by some kind of electronic disease. Our defensive programs can't stop it because they don't recognize it as a threat." The nanobots were designed to work inside the human body, so they operated using biological principles rather than traditional computer logic. The HFY cybersecurity systems had no defense against an attack that behaved like a living organism, instead of a computer virus. Within an hour, the flagship's systems began failing one by one. Navigation went offline first, then weapons targeting, then internal communications. The mighty warship was being crippled from the inside by enemies too small to see, but the humans weren't finished. Security Chief Tony Martinez had been waiting for his moment to shine. When the Liberty docked with the HFY flagship, he led a boarding party that would shock the aliens in an entirely different way. The airlock opened and Tony stepped onto the alien ship. The artificial gravity was immediately noticeable. It was much lighter than Earth's gravity. Tony and his team moved with speed and strength that the HFY had never seen before. The first alien guards they encountered were physically larger than humans, but they had evolved in a comfortable environment. Tony, who had trained his entire life in Earth's crushing gravity and harsh radiation, overpowered them easily. "How is this possible?" One of the alien guards gasped as Tony pinned him to the floor with one hand. "We come from a heavy world," Tony replied through his translator. "You come from an easy one." The boarding party moved through the ship like a force of nature. The HFY crew had never faced enemies who could move so fast and hit so hard in the lighter gravity of their own ship. Meanwhile, Communications Officer Kate Johnson was working her own kind of magic. From her station on the Liberty, she had hacked into the entire HFY fleet network. "Captain," she called out excitedly, "I'm into their central command system. They have no security worth mentioning. It's like they've never faced a real cyber attack." Jake wasn't surprised. A species that's been dominant for 1,000 years probably hasn't needed to defend against anything sophisticated. "What can you see?" "Everything, sir. Their ship positions, weapon status, personnel records, supply levels. They have no secrets from us anymore." Kate began uploading a virus into the HFY network. But this wasn't just any virus, it was based on human thought patterns and learning algorithms. The alien computers, designed to think in logical, predictable ways, couldn't cope with software that behaved as chaotically as human creativity. Across the fleet, HFY ships began experiencing system failures. Navigation computers started plotting courses to random coordinates. Weapon systems began targeting empty space. Communication arrays began broadcasting static. Ship Captain Vorth was the first to realize what was happening. "They're not just attacking us," he told his crew. They're making us attack ourselves. Our own systems are turning against us. On another vessel, ship captain Nexera was watching her crew struggle with computers that seemed to have developed a mind of their own. How are they doing this? How can one ship defeat our entire fleet? The answer was becoming clear to the more intelligent Kethvar officers. These humans had developed their technology and tactics in an environment of constant conflict and danger. Everything about their approach to warfare was based on surviving impossible odds. Back on the flagship, War Commander Thexel was facing the complete collapse of his command structure. Half his ships couldn't navigate properly, the other half couldn't target their weapons, and his own vessel was overrun with boarding parties that seemed superhuman in their capabilities. "Sub-Commander Kreeth," he called out, "can we regain control of our systems?" Kreeth was working desperately at a backup console. "No, sir. Whatever they've done to our computers, it's spreading faster than we can contain it. It's like fighting a plague that learns and adapts." "And the boarding parties? Our security forces can't stop them, sir. The humans are stronger and faster than our people. They're trained for combat in ways we never needed to learn." Thexel felt his confidence crumbling. The Kethvar Empire had ruled through technological superiority and overwhelming force. But these humans had turned both advantages against them. On the Liberty, Jake Morrison was coordinating the multi-pronged attack with calm precision. "Pete, how are our power levels?" Engineer Pete Collins checked his displays. "All systems stable, Captain. The alien weapons can't penetrate our hull, and our power systems are handling the load easily." "Lisa, status on the nanobots?" Dr. Park smiled at her readings. "They've infiltrated 17 ships now, sir. The aliens have no defense against biological-based attacks. Tony, report from the boarding action." Tony Martinez's voice came through the communicator with excitement. "We've secured the alien flagship's command center, Captain. Their crew surrendered after realizing they can't match us in hand-to-hand combat." Jake nodded with satisfaction. The plan was working perfectly. Humanity's greatest strength had always been adaptability. While other species specialized in specific areas, humans had learned to excel at everything necessary for survival. The Kethvar were about to learn that there was something more dangerous than superior technology or overwhelming numbers. An enemy that refused to be defeated and turned every disadvantage into an advantage. War Commander Thexel stood in his own command center, but he was no longer in control. Human boarding parties had taken key positions throughout his flagship, and his computer systems were completely compromised. For the first time in his long military career, he faced total defeat. Security Chief Tony Martinez approached him with confident steps. The artificial gravity that felt normal to the Kethvar made Tony feel light and strong. "War Commander, your fleet is defeated. Captain Morrison wishes to speak with you." Thexel looked around at his crew. Many of them were injured not from weapons but from trying to fight humans in hand-to-hand combat. The aliens had learned too late that creatures from a heavy, dangerous world were far stronger than they appeared. "How?" Thexel asked quietly. "How did one ship defeat 30 of our finest vessels?" Tony considered the question seriously. "Because you fight like you've never lost before. We fight like we've lost everything and have nothing left to lose." A communication channel opened, and Captain Jake Morrison's voice filled the bridge. "War Commander Thexel, this is Captain Morrison. I believe we need to talk." Thexel activated his translator. "Captain Morrison, you have proven your point. Your species is more formidable than we understood. What are your terms for our surrender?" Jake's response surprised everyone on the bridge. "I'm not accepting your surrender, War Commander. I'm offering you an alliance." Sub-Commander Kreeth, who had been monitoring the conversation, stepped forward. "An alliance? After defeating our fleet?" "Yes," Jake replied. "We've been monitoring your communications for months. Earth's radio telescopes picked up signals from across this region of space. We know about the rebel factions in your empire. We know about the external threats you're facing. We know your military hasn't faced a real challenge in centuries." Thexel felt a mixture of shame and curiosity. "What are you proposing?" "The Kethvar Empire has experience and established infrastructure across dozens of worlds. Humanity has innovations and tactics that you need. Together we could create something stronger than either of us alone. Dr. Lisa Park's voice joined the conversation from the Liberty. War Commander, we've analyzed your technology during the battle. Your basic systems are actually quite sophisticated, but you've stopped innovating. You've been so successful that you haven't needed to improve, Engineer Pete Collins added his thoughts. Your ships are built to last forever, but they're designed for fighting enemies who surrender quickly. You never needed to develop systems for prolonged combat against determined resistance. War Commander Thexel realized the truth in their words. The Kethvar Empire had become comfortable and predictable. They had forgotten how to adapt and overcome unexpected challenges. What would this alliance look like? He asked. Captain Morrison's voice carried a tone of respect. We share technology and knowledge. You teach us about galactic politics and interstellar infrastructure. We teach you about innovation and adaptive tactics. Together, we face whatever threats are coming. Communications Officer Kate Johnson interrupted with urgent news. Captain, I'm detecting incoming signals from across the galaxy. Word of this battle is spreading fast. Jake wasn't surprised. What are they saying? Mixed reactions, sir. Some species are frightened of us. Others are excited. Apparently there are a lot of civilizations that have been hoping someone would challenge the established order. On ships throughout the Kethvar fleet, crews were discovering that their human captors were not what they expected. The boarding parties were helping repair damaged systems and providing medical aid to injured aliens. Ship Captain Vorth found himself in conversation with one of the human soldiers who had taken control of his bridge. Why are you helping us? He asked. We tried to destroy you. The human, a young woman named Sarah who served under Tony Martinez, smiled at him. Because the fight is over. You're not our enemies anymore. On Earth, we learned that today's enemy might be tomorrow's ally if you treat them with respect. But we threatened to enslave your entire species, Sarah shrugged. Yes, and if you had succeeded, we would have fought you until the end of time. But you didn't succeed, and now we have the chance to build something better. This attitude was being repeated across the fleet. The humans showed no desire for revenge or domination. They had defeated the Kethvar completely, but they treated their former enemies as future partners. Ship Captain Nexra was amazed by this behavior. In all our conquests, we never encountered a species that fought so hard and then offered friendship so easily. Dr. Ben Hayes, who was treating injured Kethvar crew members, explained the human perspective. On Earth, we fight many wars. We learned that the best way to end a conflict is to turn your enemy into your friend. Destroying them just creates more enemies. War Commander Thexel made his decision. Captain Morrison, I accept your proposal for alliance, but I must warn you, not everyone in the Empire will approve of this arrangement. We understand, Jake replied. Change is never easy, but the galaxy is facing new challenges, and the old ways of doing things aren't working anymore. Sub-Commander Kreeth was studying the tactical displays. War Commander, if we report this honestly to the Empire, it will change everything. A species that can defeat our entire fleet in a few hours will revolutionize galactic politics. Thexel nodded. Yes, it will. The question is whether we'll be part of that change or victims of it. Over the following hours, representatives from both sides worked out the details of their new partnership. The humans would share their adaptive technologies and innovative tactics. The Kethvar would provide access to their galactic network and centuries of experience managing interstellar civilization. Dr. Lisa Park was particularly excited about the scientific possibilities. War Commander, your databases contain information about hundreds of different species and environments. Combined with human adaptability, we could solve problems that have puzzled both our civilizations. Engineer Pete Collins was already making plans. Your ships are built to last, but they're not built to change. We can show you how to create modular systems that can be upgraded and adapted for new situations. As news of the Alliance spread across the galaxy, reactions were swift and varied. Some species expressed fear at the emergence of a new military power. Others sent messages of interest in forming their own partnerships with the human Kethvar Alliance. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Liberty, looking out at the Kethvar fleet that was now sailing alongside them as escorts rather than enemies. Kate, what's the latest from Earth? Communications Officer Kate Johnson smiled. Earth Command is excited, sir. They're sending more ships and diplomatic teams. Humanity is officially entering galactic politics. Amy Carter was plotting courses for the combined fleet. Captain, where are we heading? Jake considered the question. The galaxy was full of opportunities and threats that neither humans nor Kethvar could handle alone. But together, they represented something new and powerful. We're going to visit the rebel territories that the Empire has been having trouble with, Jake decided. It's time to see if our new approach to problem-solving can bring peace to regions that have known only war. War Commander Thexel's voice came through the communication system. Captain Morrison, my officers are concerned about approaching the rebel zones. They have defeated our forces repeatedly. Jake smiled. War Commander, they defeated you because you were fighting them the same way you fought everyone else for 1,000 years. But we're not the same Kethvar Empire anymore. We're something new. As the combined fleet moved toward its destination, both species were learning from each other. The Kethvar were discovering the power of innovation and adaptability. The humans were learning about the complexities of managing an interstellar civilization. The galaxy would never be the same. The age of simple conquest and submission was ending. In its place, a new era of cooperation and mutual growth was beginning, led by an alliance that had been forged in the heat of battle and strengthened by the wisdom of former enemies who chose to become friends. The scan that had revealed humanity's impossible technology had done more than just panic an enemy fleet. It had announced the arrival of a species that would change the rules of galactic civilization forever.